Have you ever stopped to think about what really holds our entire legal system together? I mean, it's not just a bunch of dusty old books full of rules, right? Today, we're going to peel back the curtain and look at the hidden code, the philosophy, that gives our laws their real power and meaning.
So just think about that for a second. Where do laws actually come from? Are they just decided by politicians? Are they based on some ancient wisdom? Well, the answer is way more complicated and honestly a lot more interesting than you might think. It's a debate that's been going on for centuries.
Okay, let's get our key term on the table. Jurisprudence. I know it sounds super academic and maybe a little intimidating, but trust me, it's not. It's from Latin. Juris means law, and prudentia means skill or knowledge. So you just smash them together and you get the knowledge of law. That's it. It's the study of the theory behind the law.
I love this phrase some scholars use. They call it the eye of law, and that is the perfect way to picture it. It's like putting on a special pair of glasses that lets you see beyond the dry text on a page and understand the deep fundamental ideas that hold the whole system up. It's about seeing the why, not just the what.
So here's our game plan. We've started cracking the hidden code, we've defined jurisprudence. Next, we're going to look through 5 different lenses on law. Then we'll get into why any of this theory actually matters in the real world. And finally, we'll get to your final verdict.
All right, let's dive into the main event. These 5 major schools of thought. Now, don't think of them as competing teams. Think of them as 5 different lenses, each giving you a totally unique view on that one massive debate. What is law? And maybe more importantly, what should it be?
First up, we've got the natural law school. This is one of the oldest ways of thinking about law, and for a lot of people, it's the one that just kind of makes sense instinctively. It's a huge deal, influencing everything from the ancient Greeks to modern ideas about human rights.
So the folks in the natural law camp believe that real law comes from a higher source, whether you call it God, nature, or just pure reason. They argue that certain things are just fundamentally right or wrong everywhere for all time. Like the idea that murder is wrong isn't just a rule we made up, it's a universal moral truth. For them, a law passed by a government is only a real law if it lines up with these higher moral principles. In other words, an unjust law isn't really a law at all.
Okay, now, let's do a complete 180. We're going to look at a much more, let's say, down-to-earth perspective, the analytical school. If natural law is all about what law should be, these guys are only interested in what law is. They leave morality completely out of it.
And this quote from John Austin nails their whole philosophy. Law is the command of the sovereign backed by sanctions. Let's break that down real quick. You've got the sovereign, that's whoever's in charge. You've got the command, that's the rule they make. And you've got the sanctions, that's the punishment you get if you break the rule. That's it. For them, law is pretty simple. It's about power and control.
And this slide really gets to the heart of the whole thing. This is the central conflict. On one side, you have the analytical school, focused on law as it is. What are the rules? Who's in charge? What's the punishment? It's very practical. But on the other side, you've got this totally different idea, this focus on law as it ought to be.
Which brings us perfectly to our third lens, the philosophical school, sometimes called the ethical school. This is the school that's always asking the big what-if questions, the should questions.
This school is all about law as it ought to be. It's just not enough for a law to exist and be enforced. For them, every single law has to be measured against our highest ideals, things like justice, liberty, and fairness. They are constantly pushing to make our legal system better, more fair, and more just.
Okay, let's switch gears again. We've looked up at the heavens for moral truths. We've looked at the halls of power. Now let's look backwards, into the past. This is the historical school, and their take on where law comes from is pretty unique.
These thinkers argue that law isn't made by a king or written in a holy book, it's found. It grows out of the unique culture, traditions, and history of a specific group of people. You know, kind of like a language or a type of food. It just develops naturally over time. For them, true law is in the customs and spirit of the people, not in some command from on high.
And finally, we arrive at our fifth and most modern lens, the sociological school. This perspective sees law not as some sacred text or a historical tradition, but as a practical tool that has a job to do, right here and right now. The key idea here is law as social engineering, a term from Roscoe Pound. The concept is that law is basically an instrument for solving society's problems. It's like a toolkit for building a better community. It needs to be flexible, it needs to adapt, and its main purpose is to balance everyone's competing interests to keep society running smoothly. It's less about where law came from and way more about what law does.
Okay, let's take a breath and put this all together on one screen. This is a great little cheat sheet. You've got natural law looking to morality, the analytical school focusing on the sovereign's command, the philosophical school chasing ideals of what law ought to be, the historical school digging into the past and tradition, and the sociological school looking at what society needs right now. I mean, look at that. 5 totally different answers to the exact same question.
So right about now, you might be thinking, okay, that's all very interesting theory, but what does any of it have to do with me? Well, the answer is a whole lot. These abstract ideas have a massive impact on the real world, and we're about to see exactly how.
First off, studying jurisprudence is like a workout for your brain. It sharpens logic and reasoning skills, which is crucial for lawyers. Second, and this is a big one, it guides judges. How a judge personally sees the law, which of these lenses they look through, can totally change how they interpret a law in a case. That can literally change lives. And third, it's the engine that drives legal reform. Think about it. You can't fix a broken law unless you have some idea of what a good law should look like. That's all jurisprudence.
Okay, we've been on quite a journey through the philosophy of law. So let's bring it all home. What's the final verdict? What's the one thing you should really walk away with today?
Here's the bottom line. Jurisprudence isn't just some dusty topic for academics. It is the essential blueprint, the actual theoretical backbone of our entire legal system. Every law in the books, every decision a judge makes, every single argument about justice, it's all shaped by these big ideas, whether we realize it or not.
And that leaves us with one final question. For you, if you were the judge, wearing the robe, with someone's future in your hands, which lens would you use? Would you stick strictly to the letter of the law, like the analytical school? Would you look to a higher moral standard, like natural law? Or would you think about what's best for society as a whole? The way you'd answer that says a lot about the kind of justice you believe in. Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.